Hello, my friends. This is Peter, and I want to welcome you back to another episode of English Uncovered. Let me begin with a simple question. Have you ever noticed that you can understand English quite well, but when it's your turn to actually speak, suddenly your mind goes completely blank? You want to say something, but the words just don't come. If that happens to you, don't worry. It's something very common. Many English learners around the world have the same experience. They can follow movies, they enjoy podcasts, they can listen to conversations and understand most of what's being said. Yet when the time comes to speak for themselves, it feels almost impossible. So why does this happen? Why is there such a big difference between understanding and speaking? That's exactly what we'll explore in today's episode. I'm going to explain why comprehension and speaking are not the same thing. And then I'll share with you 5 clear and simple tips that will help you start speaking more often and more confidently. These are practical ideas you can apply immediately, and if you practice them regularly, you'll notice real progress. And just like always, here on English Uncovered, I will speak slowly and clearly. This way, you can use this podcast not only to improve your listening, but also for shadowing practice. That means you can listen carefully, repeat after me, and try to copy my rhythm, my pronunciation, and even the way I pause. Doing this will train both your ears and your mouth at the same time, so you improve your listening and your speaking together. Now, let's get into one very important idea. Understanding English and speaking English are not the same skill. They may look connected, but in reality, they work in very different ways inside your brain. Many learners tell me, "Peter, I can understand almost everything, but I just can't speak." And you know what? That's completely normal. There's a very good reason for it. When you listen and understand English, your role is passive. You sit back, you listen, you read, and your brain is only receiving information. You don't have to produce anything, you just need to connect the words you hear with their meaning. It's a one-way process, where English comes in and your brain processes it silently. But speaking? Speaking is very different. Speaking is active. It requires much more effort. You're not only understanding, you're producing. And that means you need to do many things at the same time. You have to take the idea in your head, transform it into English words, arrange those words in the right order, think about grammar, and then pronounce everything clearly. And you need to do all of this in just a few seconds, while also paying attention to the person you're speaking with. No wonder it feels so difficult. When you speak, there are many things happening at the same time. You need to think of the words you want to use, organize your thoughts clearly, build sentences in the right order, and then pronounce them with the right sounds. And you have to do all of this quickly, in real time, while someone is waiting for your answer. That's a lot of pressure. It's no wonder even advanced learners sometimes struggle when they try to speak spontaneously. But here's an important truth. Most learners don't actually practice speaking enough. They spend hours reading grammar books, they complete listening exercises, they watch movies, and they write essays or notes in English. All of these activities are valuable, of course. They help you build vocabulary, understand grammar, and improve comprehension. But here's the problem. None of them will truly help you speak unless you also use your voice. Speaking is a skill, just like swimming, cooking, or even dancing. You don't become a good swimmer by only reading about swimming techniques. You don't become a great cook just by watching cooking shows. And you definitely don't become a dancer simply by observing others dance. In all of these cases, you only improve when you practice with your body, with real action, again and again. And the same is true for speaking English. You can't just think about it. You need to actually do it. So in this episode, that's exactly what I want to help you with. My goal is to encourage you to use your voice more often, to practice speaking out loud, and to build confidence every time you open your mouth in English. To make this practical, I'm going to share with you 6 simple but powerful tips you can start using today to get into the habit of speaking English every single day. Let's begin with tip number 1. Don't wait for perfect grammar. This is such an important point. So many learners hold themselves back because they think, I will only speak when my grammar is correct. I need to study more first. I don't want to make a mistake. That thought keeps them silent for months, sometimes even years. But the truth is, you don't need perfect grammar. What you really need is clarity. Ask yourself, can the other person understand what I'm trying to say? If the answer is yes, then your English is already working. That's the main purpose of language, communication, not perfection. Let me give you an example. Imagine someone says, "Yesterday I go to the park." The grammar is not perfect. We would normally say, "Yesterday I went to the park." But does the meaning come across? Absolutely. You know exactly what the person is trying to say. And that's the goal, to be understood. Think about how children learn their first language. When they start speaking, they don't know grammar rules at all. They say things like, "me want juice," or "I know like this." Is it grammatically correct? Of course not. But do parents and people around them understand? Yes, completely. And over time, with more practice, their grammar naturally improves. You can follow the same process as an adult learner. Don't wait until your grammar is perfect. Start speaking now, even if your sentences are not always correct. The more you practice, the more natural and accurate your grammar will become. Mistakes are not failures. They are steps forward.
Before we continue, let me tell you something very important. You understand English, right? But when it's time to speak, nothing comes out. The problem isn't grammar, it's practice. You just need more speaking practice. The truth is, if you don't use English, you'll never become fluent. With the English Conversation Guide, you practice real dialogues, introductions, travel, meetings, even small talk. With audio, you can repeat anytime, anywhere. Soon, your brain stops translating and starts thinking in English. That's when fluency happens. Think of it like a gym for your speaking muscles. A few minutes every day, and English starts to flow. Get the English Conversation Guide and finally speak with confidence.
Making mistakes is not a sign of failure. In fact, it's the opposite. Every time you make a mistake, it shows that you are taking action, that you're stepping outside of silence and actually trying to communicate. Mistakes mean progress. They are proof that you are experimenting, practicing, and moving forward with your English in real situations. Think about it. Even native speakers, people who have spoken English since birth, slip up all the time. They mix up words, they forget grammar rules, and sometimes they say sentences that are not technically correct. Yet no one questions their ability to speak. Why? because what matters is not perfect grammar, but clear communication. So don't let the fear of being wrong stop you. Don't waste years waiting for the moment when your English feels flawless, because that moment may never come. Instead, use the grammar you already have. Use the words you know today. Keep your sentences short and simple if you need to. The important thing is to express yourself, to say what you want to say, and to keep the conversation alive. As you continue speaking, something powerful happens. Your grammar naturally improves with practice. Over time, you start noticing patterns. You correct yourself, and you build confidence. But here's the beauty. You won't be waiting until the future to start speaking. You'll already be communicating, already having conversations, already enjoying the benefits of using English. And that is far more valuable than being silent with perfect grammar. Remember this golden rule. Fluency with mistakes is better than silence with perfection. It's always better to be understood with a few errors than to say nothing at all. So give yourself permission to speak imperfectly. Speak now, refine later. Your voice matters, and the more you use it, the stronger it becomes. Now let's move on to another powerful idea that can truly transform the way you learn English. Instead of learning one word at a time, focus on learning in chunks. This is a game changer. A chunk is not just a single word, but a short phrase, a natural piece of language that people use every day. Think of them as ready-made building blocks you can use instantly in conversations, without needing to invent each sentence from scratch. For example, instead of only memorizing the word busy, pay attention to how people really use it in real life. A native speaker won't just say busy. They'll say, "I'm a bit busy right now," or "Sorry, I've got a lot on my plate," or "I'm swamped today." Each of these is a chunk, a natural phrase that rolls off the tongue and sounds authentic. When you learn language in chunks, you unlock fluency much faster because you don't have to pause and translate word by word in your head. You don't waste time trying to assemble sentences like a puzzle. Instead, you already have ready-made phrases stored in your memory. It's like having pre-written lines you can use in real conversations, making you sound smoother and more confident. And the best part? Chunks also carry natural rhythm, intonation, and style. They help you not only say the right words, but also sound more natural. Think about how children learn to speak. They don't memorize individual words in isolation. They repeat full expressions they hear from their parents or friends. Over time, those expressions become part of their natural speech. You can use the same strategy. So here's the key. Don't just study isolated vocabulary lists. Pay attention to how words combine and appear together in real life. Collect useful chunks, practice them often, and bring them into your conversations. Very quickly, you'll notice that speaking feels easier, faster, and far more natural. That's the real secret to moving from studying English to truly speaking English. One of the biggest advantages of learning chunks is that they save you from the constant mental pause. You don't need to stop in the middle of a conversation and think, "Wait, how do I build this sentence in English?" Because the phrase is already stored in your mind, ready to come out. It's like having small blocks of language that you can pick up and use instantly whenever you need them. Imagine being in a conversation and having phrases like, "Can I help you?" That sounds great. Or, "I'm not sure," already prepared in your brain. You don't have to invent them on the spot. You just reach for the block and place it into the conversation. This is what makes you sound fluent. And here's the best part. These chunks are not artificial textbook English. They are the real expressions people use every day in natural conversations. When you use them, you don't just communicate your message, you also sound more natural, more authentic, and far more confident. People will listen to you and think, wow, this person really knows how to speak English like we do. That confidence boost is priceless because it encourages you to speak even more. So, how do you actually collect and learn these chunks? It's simpler than you might think. Start by listening carefully to real English. That could be from podcasts, TV shows, movies, interviews, or even conversations you overhear. Pay attention not only to the words, but to the short phrases that keep repeating again and again. Whenever you notice one, write it down. Not just a single word, but the full phrase exactly as you hear it. Instead of just writing question, write down, that's a good question. Instead of memorizing situation, record, it depends on the situation. These full expressions are far more useful because they are complete tools you can use right away. But don't stop at writing. The next step is to practice them with your voice. Say them out loud, repeat them slowly, then faster, until they flow naturally. You can even record yourself and play it back. This helps you notice your pronunciation, your rhythm, and your intonation. Over time, these phrases will feel natural, and you'll be able to use them without hesitation. And here's a small secret. Every time you learn a new phrase, ask yourself, could I actually use this in my real life? Could I say this at work, at a cafe, talking with a friend? If the answer is yes, then it's a phrase worth keeping. Learn it, practice it, and make it part of your personal English toolkit. When you focus on chunks instead of single words, you build English in larger pieces, and that makes your speech smoother, faster, and easier. Instead of constructing every sentence word by word like a puzzle, you're stacking ready-made blocks together. That is the shortcut to fluency. So remember, don't build your English brick by brick, word by word. Build it phrase by phrase, chunk by chunk. Now let's move to another simple but incredibly powerful technique that can transform your speaking practice: speaking to yourself. This may sound unusual at first, but trust me, it works. If you want to speak English fluently, you need to speak every single day. There's no way around it. But here's the challenge most learners face.
Many learners come to me and say, "But, Peter, I don't have anyone to talk to. I don't live in an English-speaking country. I don't know any native speakers. How can I practice if I don't have a partner?" And I completely understand this frustration. It feels like a huge obstacle, right? But here is the encouraging truth. You don't need to live abroad, you don't need a private tutor, and you don't even need a study partner to start speaking English today. You already have the most valuable resource with you all the time, your own voice. That's right, you can practice English by speaking to yourself. I know, at first it may sound a little unusual or even a bit silly, but trust me, this technique is powerful and it really works. Speaking to yourself is one of the most effective ways to strengthen your fluency. And the best part is that it requires no schedule, no coordination, and no other person. You don't need to wait for a teacher to be available or for a friend to agree to practice with you. You can do it anytime, anywhere, and as often as you like. Imagine this. While you're cooking dinner, you can talk through each step in English. While walking down the street, you can describe what you see. Even while you're driving or taking a shower, you can practice. There are no restrictions, no pressure.
Just you and your voice free to explore English in real time. So, what exactly should you say when you practice this way? The answer is simple: anything and everything. Start with what is happening around you in the present moment. For example, you might say, "I'm making coffee right now. I'm pouring the water into the cup. The sun is shining through the window. I need to charge my phone later." These sentences may seem simple, but they are powerful because they connect English to your real life. You are training your brain to describe your world in English instead of your native language. You can also talk about your plans for the day or how you're feeling. For instance, you might say, "I feel a little tired this morning. I have a meeting at 10 o'clock. Later, I'd like to go for a walk in the park." These are not random textbook examples. They are personal, meaningful, and directly connected to your life, which makes them easier to remember and much more useful. Another great way to practice is to ask yourself questions and then answer them. For example, what do I want for dinner tonight? Why is learning English so important to me? How can I improve faster this week? By asking and answering your own questions, you create a mini dialogue, and this trains you to think in English more naturally. And here's an even more fun idea. Act out real-life conversations by playing both parts yourself. For instance, imagine you're in a cafe. You can say, "Hello, how can I help you today?" Then answer yourself, "Yes, I'd like a cappuccino, please." And then continue, "Of course. Would you like anything else?" Then finish with, "No, thank you. That's all for now." You're basically performing a small role play, but you're doing it alone. This exercise may sound playful, but it's incredibly effective. It prepares you for real conversations in the future, because when you actually go to a cafe and order in English, the phrases will already be familiar to you. So don't wait for the perfect partner or the perfect situation. You can create endless opportunities to practice simply by speaking to yourself. Every moment of your day can become a mini English lesson if you use your voice. The more you do it, the more natural it becomes, and soon English will start to feel less like a subject you're studying and more like a language you're actually living. Now, you might be wondering, why does talking to yourself actually work? The reason is simple but powerful. Each time you speak out loud, even if you're only talking to yourself, you are training your brain to search for words more quickly. You are teaching your mouth and your mind to work together in real time, just like in an actual conversation. Instead of pausing, translating, and overthinking, you begin to access English more directly. This is the key to fluency: being able to express your thoughts naturally without stopping every second to translate. And the more you practice this on your own, the faster your brain will adapt. Think of it like going to the gym, but instead of training your muscles, you're training your brain and your mouth. Every time you speak in English, you are giving your language muscles a workout. At first, it might feel a little uncomfortable, just like the first day at the gym. But with repetition, your brain becomes stronger, quicker, and more flexible. And the best part of this method is that there's absolutely no pressure. No one is watching, no one is judging, and no one is waiting for you to get it right. You can make as many mistakes as you want. You can start again, you can repeat the same sentence 10 times, and nobody will complain. This freedom creates the perfect environment for learning. If you make it a habit to speak to yourself every single day, even just for a few minutes, something amazing will happen. Your brain will slowly begin to think in English. You will notice that instead of translating everything from your native language, sentences will just appear in English. It will feel more natural, more automatic, and far less stressful. And as a result, when you finally speak with other people, whether with a friend, a colleague, or even a stranger, You will feel more prepared, more confident, and much more fluent. Now, let's move to tip number 4. Use AI, artificial intelligence. This is one of the most exciting tools available to learners today, and it can completely change the way you practice English. Artificial intelligence, often shortened to AI, refers to smart technology that can interact with you almost like a human. Examples include platforms like ChatGPT, Copilot, or PI, the personal AI assistant. These tools are available anytime, day or night, and they never get tired. You can ask them questions, have conversations, and practice dialogue as often as you like. And the best part? They will never judge you for making mistakes. Imagine this. You want to practice a conversation at a restaurant, but you don't have a partner. With AI, you can create that situation instantly. You type or even speak, and the AI responds as if it were the waiter. You can order food, make small talk, ask for recommendations, and the AI will correct your sentences if you want. You can repeat the conversation as many times as you like until you feel comfortable. This is like having a personal tutor available 24/7. Personally, one of my favorite AI tools is ChatGPT. You can use it by typing your questions, but in many cases, you can also speak to it directly, making the interaction feel like a real conversation. Another excellent tool is PI, which is designed to act like a personal assistant, guiding you through dialogues in a very natural and supportive way. Both of these options are fantastic because they give you the chance to practice active English, not just reading or listening, but actually producing sentences and hearing them back in real time. So, if you sometimes feel alone in your learning journey, remember this. With AI, you are never really alone. These tools can provide endless opportunities to practice, to experiment, and to grow more confident.
One of the best things about modern AI tools is that they don't just let you type. Many of them can also speak back to you with a natural, friendly, and supportive voice. This makes the experience feel far more real, almost as if you were chatting with a teacher or a friend who is patient, kind, and always available. Take Copilot as an example. Just like ChatGPT or PI, it allows you to interact in real time, not only by reading responses, but also by hearing them spoken aloud. That way, you are not just reading English on a screen, you are hearing the rhythm, the intonation, and the natural flow of the language as it is spoken. This kind of practice is incredibly powerful because it mimics a real conversation in a safe and stress-free environment. So how can you actually use these AI tools in your study routine? The best way is to keep it simple at first. Open the app or platform and begin with a short introduction, such as, "Hi, I'm learning English. Can we talk?" Or, "Let's practice a short conversation in a cafe." As soon as you type or speak these words, the AI will respond, and from that moment the conversation begins. You reply again, it answers, and the cycle continues, just like a natural exchange with a real person. The more you practice, the easier it becomes. What makes this so effective is the fact that you are in full control of the situation. There's no pressure, no embarrassment, and no fear of being judged. If you want to repeat a phrase, you can. If you want the AI to slow down, you can simply say, "Please speak more slowly," or "Could you explain that in simple words?" If you want corrections, you can ask, "Can you correct my English?" The AI will adapt to your needs, providing support, explanations, and repetition whenever you need it. It is like having a private tutor available anytime you feel like practicing. The reason this works so well is that it forces you to use English, not just study it. Many learners spend years reading textbooks or doing grammar exercises without ever putting their knowledge into practice. But when you engage with AI in conversation, you are training your brain to think directly in English. You are building habits, developing fluency, and learning to respond quickly and naturally. This is not passive learning, it is active practice. And active practice is what leads to real progress. Step by step, you will notice the difference. At first, you may need more time to think of your answers, but with practice, your replies will come faster, smoother, and more confidently. That's the beauty of using AI. It helps you build fluency in a way that is interactive, flexible, and always available. Now, let's move on to tip number 5, the 4-3-2 technique. This is one of the most powerful methods I can share with you because it directly trains your fluency. The method is simple, but the impact is huge. Here's how it works. First, you choose a short topic. It doesn't need to be anything complicated. It could be a story you recently heard, something interesting from a podcast, or even just a small event from your own day. The goal is not to be perfect, but to get yourself speaking about a topic in a clear and structured way.
Now let's talk about a very powerful exercise that can truly transform the way you practice speaking. It's called the 4-3-2 technique. And even though it looks simple at first, it trains your brain to speak faster, smoother, and with more confidence every single time you use it. Let me explain it in detail so you can really understand how it works and why it's so effective. First, you begin by choosing a small topic. Don't worry about making it complicated. Pick something easy, like a story from your day, a short podcast you listened to, or even a little event you remember clearly. Once you have your topic, the first step is to speak about it for 4 minutes. During these 4 minutes, don't rush. Speak slowly, take your time, and try to include as many details as you can. Think about the who, the what, the where, and the why. This first round is all about telling the complete version of your story in a relaxed way without worrying about speed. After that, take a short pause, maybe 30 seconds or a minute, just to breathe and clear your mind. Now comes the second step. You speak about the exact same topic again, but this time for 3 minutes only. Because you have less time, you'll automatically start organizing your thoughts better. You'll cut away unnecessary details and keep the most important parts. Your speech will become faster, but also more structured. You'll notice that the second time feels easier because you've already warmed up your brain in English. Finally, for the last step, you repeat the process one more time, but now you only have 2 minutes. At this point, you know the story very well, so your challenge is to speak smoothly, naturally, and fluently without long pauses. You won't need to stop and search for words so much, because your brain already practiced the vocabulary in the first 2 rounds. This final version often feels the most exciting because you hear yourself speaking in a way that sounds clear and confident, almost automatic. Why is this technique so effective? Because each repetition pushes you closer to fluency. The first round gives you time to think slowly and carefully. The second round makes you faster and more organized. The third round forces you to become fluent and smooth. With every version, your brain is training to think in English more quickly, and the language begins to flow without hesitation. You're not memorizing lines. You're practicing the real skill of telling stories naturally in another language. A great extra tip is to record yourself during the 3 stages. When you listen back, you'll be able to hear the difference between your first version and your final version. The contrast will surprise you because by the end, you'll notice stronger rhythm, more natural sentences, and a lot more confidence in your voice. This motivates you to keep practicing because you can clearly hear your own progress. And here's another powerful exercise. Take just one simple sentence and practice saying it in many different ways. For example, a sentence like, "I went to the park yesterday." You can practice saying it with different intonations, add more details, shorten it, or ask it as a question. This may sound like a small exercise, but it's incredibly helpful. It forces your brain to become flexible with the language, to think faster, and to express the same idea in several ways. Over time, this builds the kind of natural fluency that native speakers have, because they can play with words and change sentences quickly. By practicing both the 4-3-2 technique and the one-sentence variation exercise, you are training your brain to move beyond studying English and instead actually using English like a tool. This kind of practice develops confidence, fluency, and the ability to think directly in English, skills that are far more valuable than just memorizing grammar rules.
Let me show you how this works in practice. We begin with something extremely simple, like a short sentence. For example, I went to the store. It looks very basic, but from here we can stretch and grow it in many different directions. The first step is to add just a little more detail. I went to the store yesterday. Already, the sentence is longer and tells us when the action happened. Then you can expand again. I went to the store yesterday to buy some bread. Suddenly, the reason is included and the picture becomes clearer. You're no longer saying only that you went somewhere, you're telling a small story. If you add even more detail, you might say, I went to the store yesterday because we didn't have any food at home. Now the sentence carries a purpose, a situation, and even a little bit of urgency. But you don't always need to add information. You can also play with emotion and feeling. For example, you might say, I had to go to the store again. This shows a little frustration. Or you could change it into something unexpected. I went to the store, but it was already closed. That changes the outcome of the story. You might even make it more personal and surprising. Guess what? I went to the store and saw my old teacher. By making these small changes, you train yourself to think more quickly, to adapt your English to different situations, and to express emotions, actions, and outcomes in many ways. This is what real fluency looks like. It's not about memorizing set phrases like a machine, but about being able to create, adapt, and express yourself freely. So, let's wrap this up. In today's episode of English Uncovered with Peter, we looked at why so many learners can understand English quite well, but still struggle when it comes to speaking. The answer is practice. Active, daily, consistent practice. You have to use your voice. Don't keep your English locked inside your mind. Speak it out loud. Play with sentences. Push yourself to try again and again. Every time you speak, even if it's short or simple, you are training your fluency. Remember, English isn't something you just study. It's something you use. So take these techniques, practice them every day, and keep believing in your ability to improve. Progress comes step by step, but each step brings you closer to confidence. This is English Uncovered with Peter. Keep speaking, keep learning, and keep moving forward. Until next time, take care and never stop practicing.